Hey, everyone. Well, before we start the presentation, I want to start saying that, this is an amazing festival. It's a truly unique festival. The audience is amazing. The staff is amazing. And I really want to thank you, Javier, for inviting me to be here. So the title of my talk is Understanding Consciousness. If we understand consciousness, how will this make the world a better place? A short introduction. Well, I'm a scientist working at the University of California in Berkeley in the United States at the Center for Science, Technology, Medicine, and Society in a program called the Program for Medical Humanities. I'm also an entrepreneur. I created several companies, and I identify as a philanthropist because I'm the president of a nonprofit that invested more than $100 million in biomedical technology with the goal of improving our healthcare system. So the question I have for you today, why is it important to understand consciousness? How will this change our healthcare system? In the United States, just the United States, there are more than 180,000 people in a coma. So they're laying on the bed, not responding. Families are desperate. Physicians can't do much for them. And we're just waiting for them to regain consciousness. They're connected to the machines that sustain them alive. Some of them recover, some don't. And the question is, when should we disconnect the machines that keep them alive? When should families allow it? When should physicians say they will not regain consciousness? And worse than this, in some hospitals, when a new patient comes in, they don't have enough space and enough machines, so they have to choose who will live and still have a chance to regain consciousness. This is 180,000 people, and the number of family members is enormous. If we understood consciousness, if scientists would say, here's a technology that allows you to measure if the person is conscious or not. So physicians would be able to say, well, this person is dead, this person is conscious, but it cannot communicate with the outside. Because later, when these patients recover from coma, some of them say, you know what? I couldn't respond, but I was totally aware of everything. I was listening to what you said. I listened to every single word, but I simply couldn't communicate, right? So if scientists were capable of creating technologies that empower physicians to not just understand if the person is conscious, but help them regain consciousness, this would be extremely valuable and would improve our healthcare system. So understanding consciousness can indeed make the world a better place and can help improve the lives of 180,000 people and their families. But understanding consciousness, it's not just about impacting the healthcare system. I have a question for you. Is your dog conscious? If you have a pet animal, is he conscious? How about a chimpanzee? Or an elephant? Or a dolphin? Are these species conscious? How do we know? Let's do this empirically. This is a chimpanzee. And what we did was we showed them a mirror. Let's see how he behaves when he sees himself in the mirror. He's clearly recognizing himself in the mirror. He's inspecting his own face. He's clearly aware of himself. That's great, but this is not a proof. What do scientists have to say about it? In 2012, more than 10 years ago, there was a Cambridge Declaration on Consciousness. Famous scientists from all over the world said exactly this. Convergent evidence indicates that non-human animals have the neuroanatomical, neurochemical, and neurophysiological substrates of conscious states. This means that we really believe that they're conscious. It's very, very likely that they are. So the question for you is, if we know that these animals are conscious, should they have the equivalent of human rights? How will this change how we interact with other species? Should we rethink the way we behave with other fellow species? So understanding consciousness can help us improve our ethical behavior towards other species. And I'm talking about biological species. How about artificial intelligence? That's tricky. Last year, Google Lambda essentially passed the Turing test. And the engineers at Google, some of them, said, you know what? I'm really convinced that this technology is not just intelligent, but conscious. How about ChatGPT? You may say, well, I'm not convinced. How about the next versions? How about ChatGPT 5, 6, 7? When, if it becomes conscious, how will we know? Well, a couple of decades ago, there was this argument. If you made a question to a scientist, are computers conscious? They would say, well, they're very unlikely to be conscious. And they would say, why? They would say, well, because the human brain is very complex. Our brain is really powerful compared to computers. So 10 years ago, we decided to quantify the processing power of the human brain. So we published this paper, and we demonstrated that the human brain has a processing power of 5.52 plus or less 1.13 times 10 to the 16 bits per second. How much is this? Well, 1 with 3 zeros, 1,000. 1 with 6 zeros, 1,000,000. 1 with 9 zeros, 1,000,000,000. 12 zeros, 1,000,000,000,000. 15 zeros, 1,000,000,000,000. So that's a lot. That's 50 quadrillion bits per second. It's a huge number. It's a big number. But the question is, how about supercomputers today? They're faster than the human brain. They're 10 to the 18 bits per second. Supercomputers today are 20 times faster than an average human brain. I'm not saying that these computers are conscious just because they're more powerful computationally. What I'm saying is, we cannot use the argument anymore that they're not conscious because our brains are more powerful. Computationally, they are more powerful than our brains. So in the next couple of decades, scientists are very hopeful that we might indeed come to a point where we might understand how consciousness works. And why are so optimistic? Why are we so optimistic about the future? Because technology is growing exponentially. Many technologies today are really growing fast. Some examples. Brain imaging. We have magnetic resonance imaging. Functional magnetic resonance imaging, another one. So we can study the brain structure and function with a lot of detail, thanks to these technologies. And the beauty of this is that it's growing exponentially. So more and more, we have more capability of getting data out of the brain and the body, which allows scientists to study the data. And also, growing exponentially is our understanding of cells. Here's an example. This is a computational simulation of what's going on inside many of your cells today. This is a synaptic vesicle being carried inside a cell along a microtubule by what is known as a dynein. It's a motor protein. It's a biological nanorobot that moves inside your cells, and my cells also. What I want to illustrate here is that our understanding of cells and the biology of cells is growing exponentially. It's really growing fast. And it's not just at the size of cells and inside cells. We are growing atomically. We are looking into the atoms, single individual atoms with nanotechnology. And we can maneuver these atoms. So in the future, with the exponential growth of nanotechnology, we will have tremendous power to manipulate things atom by atom. And underlying all of these exponential growth is computing. Computers are growing exponentially for the past couple of decades, according to a law. It's called the Moore's Law. And they're doubling in power performance every 2 years. So every 2 years, the power of computers is doubling. While artificial intelligence is doubling every 4 months. And it's not just computing. The way, the technology we have today to interface and get data from our brains, connect the brains with computers, is also growing very, very fast. This is one example. It's Neuralink, the company of the world-famous Elon Musk. But there are more than 188 companies around the world working on neurotech. Let me show you an example of what can be done today. This is a tetraplegic, and this lady is controlling the robotic arm with her thoughts only. This is one of the devices being used to extract the data. This is happening at UC Berkeley in the United States. And this is how small it is compared to a penny. It's very biocompatible, so you can install it in the body, and it causes no immune reaction. It's totally safe. And this is the data we get from the person's nervous system and allows this tetraplegic to feed herself using a robotic arm. A couple of years ago, in 2019, we published a paper titled Human-Brain Cloud Interface. So if we're connecting the brain with computers, what if we connect the brain with the internet directly? What if you didn't need a cell phone or a laptop? What if you could just think and connect your brain to the cloud, access Google just by thinking? You would just close your eyes and say, you know what is the Festival of Consciousness? And suddenly you get the information saying it's one of the best conferences in the world. True? And when we published this paper, what was interesting was the paper was very well received in the scientific community. The paper is now in the top 10 most viewed papers ever, among more than 10,000 published papers on the prestigious journal Frontiers of Neuroscience. And more than being proud of the paper that we published, what this shows is that the scientific community recognizes that the time for brain-cloud interface systems to be created is now. We have to start working on it. Well, if you want to know more, you can access my website. You also have my social media there if you're interested in connecting. And again, before we finish, what an amazing festival. Javier, thank you so much again for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. It's great to meet most of you around. And in Spanish, muchas gracias. Gracias. Gracias.